Good evening, Belize, and welcome to XTV's news broadcast for Wednesday, March 5, 2025. Making the headlines tonight, paraplegic man killed in broad daylight in Belize City. Belizeans beware, global tariff wars will result in higher prices for imported items. And Chamber continues to push for campaign finance reform. We take our first break and return with the news in detail.
vote. A message brought to you by the Elections and Boundaries Department.
Welcome back with your news. I am Drea Espinosa. A paraplegic man was murdered in Belize City at around 11:30 this morning. 40-year-old Gayan Kareem Gomez, also known as Gizmo, was on Castle Street when he was shot once to the head. Reports are that two persons on a bicycle were seen fleeing the area after the gunshot was heard. No expended shells were found. Neighbors described Gomez as a feisty and outspoken individual. It is not yet known if he was the target. Police are investigating. Meanwhile, on Tuesday night, two women had to be hospitalized after being shot while walking with a known individual along Vernon Street in Belize City. They were targeted by a single gunman. The women have been identified as 40-year-old Stephanie James and 55-year-old Maria Cruz. One of the women was treated and released, while the other is hospitalized in stable condition. The United States, due to decisions being made by their President Donald Trump, is currently engaging in a tariff war with Canada, Mexico, and China. There has been much said in the media of the late about how these tariffs will affect the citizens and economies of those countries. But will this also affect Belizeans? Today, Catherine Main, the president of the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry, BCCI, told the media that Belize will be affected by the increase of the cost of imported items.
An increase in cost. And it comes right back to what we were talking about, right? And each country has to do all it can to be able to have the most stable, predictable, and I know that's a theme of our discussion, but it's really important. Stable, predictable, and growing economy. With those challenges that are coming from outside, we have to prepare for an environment where things will increase in cost. We are primarily an import-driven society. That means, and where are these items coming from? Many of them, even if they're in transit, they move from the United States. What does that mean? Also, there's other angles to that. We are so interconnected when it comes to do with the cost or the details that has to do with where some of these ships that are bringing these items our way are coming from. And what does that mean when this sort of environment, and lack of a better way of saying it, trade war is really happening around us? It means a couple things to me. It means, one, we need to do a better job at figuring out how we can make our business environment, our economy, as stable and working as efficiently as possible. And secondly, we have to start to take the actions of being a preventative type entity or nation so that we can prepare for what is to come, because we know it's going to mean increase in costs.
The People's United Party had promised campaign finance reform in its 2020 Plan Belize manifesto, but that never materialized. In 2023, the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry, BCCI, developed a draft campaign finance legislation bill that would bring a regulation and transparency. Nothing concrete resulted from the proposal, as it never attracted interest from the government. Today, the new Chamber President, Catherine Main, told the media it's still something they are trying to achieve and will bring up the topic with whomever forms the next government.
We have shared, and this is known, we've done this for quite some time, a potential regulation, a draft regulation for that to be considered. This is a topic that will continue to be a priority for us. Tax reform, corruption, labor force and matters related to that, and also energy and infrastructure. Those are the fundamentals that we all need in order to create that healthy economic environment for the business community, but across the board as well. Corruption and the topic of preventing of corruption via campaign financing is a topic we intend to bring right back up with whichever administration wins, and it's not going to come off the table for us because it's the path to a healthy democracy in my view.
After the break, Kumpel visits northern border following the death of 3 Belizeans. Stay with us. Commissioner of Police Chester Williams has taken 2 days to tour the irregular border crossings along Belize's northern border with Mexico at the Rio Hondo. The tour began on Tuesday. He is joined by the Commander of Operations of the Police Department, Alford Greenidge, and the Northern Regional Commander, Senior Superintendent Christopher Noble. Also joining the tour are Superintendent Aaron Gamboa, Commander of the Special Patrol Unit, ASP Marciano Mejia, who heads the Mobile Interdiction Team, and Inspector Jamin Casanova, who heads the recently established Highway Interdiction Team. An objective of the working visit is to learn about any challenges being faced by the commanders responsible for the northern operations so as to find ways to increase efficiency and maintain effectiveness. In a Facebook post on the department's page, it is notified that, quote, with heightened cartel activity in neighboring Cheddar Mall, it is only prudent that we reassess our operational objectives to ensure no vulnerable areas are left exposed to potential spillover effects. We remain committed to targeting local Belizeans known to associate with cartels in an effort to disrupt their activities, end quote. In a recent interview, the commissioner told the media that they have been largely successful in their operations up north. In June of 2023, $1 million was allocated in supplementary expenditure to fund the operations of the police in the north. The government continues to maintain those operations. When the term corruption is brought up, people typically expect the conversation to be about a politician or someone in a leadership position. However, the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry, BCCI, wants Belizeans to realize that they too can have a hand in corruption. Today, BCCI President Catherine Main explained that political clientelism or the exchange of political support or vote for goods, services, or money is also a form of corruption. She said, Belizeans need to learn the value of their vote.
The value of somebody's vote is very significant. There is power in your vote. If you choose to give that away or to offer that to somebody else in exchange for a short-term benefit, and it will more than likely be a short-term benefit, are you really doing yourself a service, or are you really hampering yourself and hampering those around you? How are you going to benefit from that? And I think people need to remember about that.
On February 12, the Ministry of Home Affairs, which oversees public and bank holidays, announced that Election Day, March 12, will be a national holiday. It was explained that it should assist with giving more voters time off to go cast their vote. Today, BCCI President Catherine Main lamented that such unplanned holidays are costly for businesses. She said that a recent study showed unplanned holidays cost businesses millions of dollars.
It means that ultimately there will be an added cost, and the bigger the businesses, the more impactful that is. And ironically, the ones that are being most impacted have been themed and identified as priority areas within our business community. We're talking tourism, which makes more than 40%, which covers more than 40% of our GST. We're talking BPOs, which is a very significant contributor towards GDP growth and development in terms of salaries, etc., and standard of living, etc. People are moving up, if you want to say it that way. And last but not least, and these are just the three big areas, because there are others as well. We're talking about all the industries that have 24/7 operations, and how significant are those 24/7 operations? We're talking BL that's going through its own challenges right now, we're talking Boeing, etc. Yeah, and so is that the sort of business climate and environment that we want to do for priority areas that are contributing significantly to the development of the economy? And I'll tell you, in 2020 we identified that each unplanned holiday is costing in the millions. When you look at it from a general perspective, we're actually trying to tabulate and get a more updated figure, because we know since 2022 it's definitely increased for all the reasons that we've talked about. So what does that mean? Our intention is, again, immediately following the elections, to have a real solid, healthy conversation with the parties at B to really discuss the impact, so that and what we hope is that this is remembered and thought about and considered when this sort of idea comes up.
Maine also lamented that the week already had a public and bank holiday on March 10, and a second one will affect productivity that week.
Yes, exactly. So, we all talk about it, and, and I know that there's a lot of conversations about the favoritism and the need for a holiday and so forth. But outside of that, again, do we really want to set up an environment where we have short-term gain for long-term loss? And it's a similar theme. In this case, we have the 10th holiday, which is already planned, and then we now have the 12th. What does this mean for the 11th? What does this mean for the 13th, right? What does this mean for productivity throughout that week? That's a cost, and that's a cost to those that are the voting public.
In other news, the leader of the People's National Party, Will Mejia, has called out the Elections and Boundaries Department for ignoring his request for accommodations to be made as it relates to polling stations in the Toledo East Division. As things currently stand, Mejia says some voters are greatly inconvenienced as they are forced to go to further locations when arrangements can be made for them to vote at polling stations that are much closer. In another instance, where a polling station is set in a smaller village and voters from a larger village are required to vote there, Mejia asked for the situation to be reversed so that the polling station is placed in the larger village. In a press release on Tuesday, Mejia notified that he has received no response from the department, and he called it disappointing and unacceptable. In other political news, the People's Democratic Movement, PDM, today launched its manifesto, which is centered around ending corruption, poverty, and giving more opportunities to the poor. The party will field 4 candidates who will contest Belize Rural Central, Albert, Port Loyola, and Queens Square in the upcoming general elections. Now, less than a week away on March 12. PDM Chairman George Mivett introduced their candidates, spoke on why they are only fielding 4 standard bearers, and explained how they can make a difference with such a small slate.
And we call it a movement because party gives the insinuation and the connotation that it might be temporary. The People's Democratic Movement is people-based, and it is here to stay. People use the word third party. That is not something that I personally use. I say the alternate party. It's an alternative to what we have had thus far. There's a culture of winning elections where you will see and you will experience that you will not see your area representative and or your ministers for 4 years, 11 months, and 1 week. You will not see them. You will see them 3 weeks before election. We have had more than 4 applicants to run in this general election. But we have to screen people, and we have to screen them based on character. We have to screen them based on name recognition. Everybody knows who Mr. Matos is in Queen Square. Everybody knows Mr. Tablada from Port. Everybody knows Mr. Galvez from all over. And Mr. Our leader, our party leader, he's a nationally known figure. We had to weed out some people. If, for example, there's a mathematical scenario of, let us say for argument's sake, 14 UDPs winning and 14 PUPs winning, and there's 31 seats, right? 14 and 14, and three of our people winning. Then who you think the power broker is? All right, that is where the power broker is. And you know, when you're a power broker, what you need to do? You need to wield power, but you need to wield it constructively. And so this is what we are saying.
Esteban Pereira Sr. spoke on why he took the challenge to lead an alternate party and why he believes he can make a difference in Belize Rural Central.
Belize have been in a crisis for too long, and it is time now that the people of Belize rise up and answer our calls. We are happy to have been campaigning for some couple months, and we have been getting some very good feedbacks. And as of that, I will now go on to my constituency. I am running in the Belize Rural Central constituency, and I have been in there fighting, and I've just left Hattieville, and the people of Hattieville are saying that in Hattieville they don't even have an ATM machine. They don't even have a high school. Not one street is paved in Hattieville. There's no employment in Hattieville. In the villages, they have complained that there's nothing that the PUP have done for them. And that is one of the reasons why on election day they will vote them out. There are others. You go to Ladyville. There's nothing in Ladyville. No high schools. Some of the roads are paved, but people are in real need to find jobs. There's no jobs in Ladyville. And throughout our country, this is the norm. Everybody wants more jobs, more opportunities to uplift themselves. And that is why I am here today. And I'm going to be fighting for the Belizean people from now until the time I am gone.
After the break, Belmopan gets dedicated emergency office. Stay tuned.
within the first quarter of 2025. Social Security at your fingertips.
The Belize Court of Appeal, in a judgment delivered on March 3rd, upheld the High Court conviction of Bert Vasquez for an attempted rape, which occurred in January of 2011. The victim reported to police that she was walking home from work at around 6 p.m. when Vasquez offered her a ride from Freetown Road in Belize City. Instead of taking her home, however, he took her to a secluded location. The Court of Appeal also affirmed his sentence of 4 years. Vasquez was tried in 2018, and after a 3-day trial, he was convicted on November 7 that year. When that sentence was delivered, Vasquez was already serving concurrent sentences of 10 years and 3 years of separate convictions of forcible abduction and aggravated assault of an indecent nature. In his appeal, Vasquez, who represented himself, urged the court to quash his conviction and set aside his sentence, or an alternative for the sentence to run concurrently with his 10-year and 3-year sentence. However, Vasquez lost the appeal. Additionally, because the appeal against the sentence was not filed in time, that application was not entertained. On the request for a consideration that his attempted rape sentence run concurrently with his other sentences, the Court of Appeal judges did not find it appropriate, given that they were entirely separate incidents. The prosecution was led by the Director of Public Prosecutions, Cheryl Lynn Vidal. The National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, today opened a new emergency office in Belmopan, which will serve as the Belmopan Emergency Operations Center, EOC. During times of disaster, the EOC will be managed by a committee comprising the area representative, mayor, 2 district coordinators, and 13 committee members from various government ministries. The buildings will be retrofitted to also serve a dual purpose as a training and research center to support capacity building initiatives. National NEMO Coordinator Daniel Mendez spoke about what they had to work with before today's inauguration.
We used to have a little room over at NAVCO. Remember that building, a little small room? And then for a while you were housed at the Belmopan office. But here now is a new building, a purpose-built building that is now ready and available for the use of emergency response in the Belmopan area. So this building was we actually helped to design the building from the very beginning. This was an old structure that was almost run down. And so when we came in, the contractor told us, whatever you want, we'll build. So this has been built purposely for that. So the idea behind this is we will have part of it will be the Belmopan office, emergency office, but we're also going to be utilizing part of it as a training center. So when you walk into the building, you'll see the first floor is designed for training, and then upstairs is the actual EOC where you'll be working when we do that. So I just want to welcome you all. It's been a long time in coming for Belmopan to have its own NEMO center, where you're able to do your work here and be able to provide that service to the people of Belmopan and the surrounding villages from this part.
As you are aware, it's not just the Belmopan itself that is responsible, that is responsibility of this office, but really as far as Franks Eddy, down to Unitedville, and all the way down to St. Margaret's Village, which is a really wide and huge geographic area. So having a building where we are able to coordinate those activities for this area is really important. At the headquarters, we are looking at the national level, so we have to look at the needs of all 6 districts and all the villages in between. But here, the Belmopan office, the Belmopan team will be able to focus that effort specifically for this area, because they are the ones who know these communities much better than we do at the national level.
On a point of interest, the Ministry of Agriculture, Food Security and Enterprise has suspended the issuance of import permits for some vegetables that are usually imported when local supply is either insufficient or unavailable. Now suspended for imports are lettuce, purple, white, and yellow onions, potatoes, cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, broccoli, and celery. The ministry says anyone caught with these imported vegetables will be prosecuted under the Baja Act. Anyone found guilty faces fines or imprisonment or both. Animal welfare groups from across the country on Tuesday issued a joint statement condemning recent cases of violence against animals, particularly pets. Highlighted is the case in Benqueviejo over the weekend where police shot and killed a dog who was protecting his yard. Of that incident, the statement notes, quote, "There is no evidence of any aggression beyond the officer's statements, and the dog appears to have been shot in the back. This incident is part of a disturbing trend of extreme violence against pet dogs by the police department, resulting in several deaths over the past year," end quote. The statement also condemned the killing of the Governor General's dog. The groups highlighted reports that a Belize Water Services Limited BWS employee in Orange Walk entered a yard unannounced on Tuesday and kicked a dog in his head and severely injured him. It is also states that other pet owners that have reported that BWS employees are using pepper spray on dogs. Also highlighted were reports of horses being ridden on concrete streets and left without food and water while being beaten. The groups call on the Commissioner of Police, Chester Williams, to conduct a thorough investigation into these animal cruelty cases and for those at fault to be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. The statement laments that, quote, "Belize has become a country where animal cruelty has reached peak level and nearly all incidents go unpunished. This needs to stop," end quote. And the highly anticipated 15th Mixed Martial Arts MMA competition for Pro FC will take place in Orange Walk inside the multi-purpose complex on Saturday, March 15. The competition will feature athletes from across the country, with many of them competing against athletes from Mexico. Pro FC CEO Silvino Riverol spoke more on the competition and explained where tickets can be bought.
Next weekend, Saturday, March 15th in Orange Rock Town at the Orange Rock Multipurpose Complex, we're having Pro FC 15, which is our 15th event. And for our main event, we have Thomas Godfrey from Orange Rock Town, Belize, versus Ismael Canek Perez from Merida, Yucatan, out of the Cocotan Warriors. This is going to be to determine who's the number one person at 170 pounds, the welterweight division. We also have 8 other exciting MMA fights along with that, and we also have 4 no-gi grappling super fights, total of 13 matches. So it's a night full of excitement, MMA and grappling as well.
Okay, so tell us about the venue and about the tickets and pricing.
Yeah, well, the tickets are $25 general and $75 VIP. You can get those tickets at Shell One Stop, or you can purchase them at the ticket booth at the day of the event. No, and we open doors at 6:30 p.m. and we start 7:30 p.m. sharp. And the event is a very exciting night of MMA fights all throughout the night. We have good music, lights, good production, the best in Belize, and MMA, the most exciting sport in the world, is here. We're doing our 15th event, and the sport keeps on growing.
And tell us about the VIP package.
The VIP package, you get to sit down close to the cage. It includes a waitress or a bartender that serves you your drinks, your food, so you need to get up. And also you get access close to the ringside. You see the fighters come out, you can take pictures with them. It's a different experience because you're right there hearing all the punches, everything, full excitement.
The main event will feature Orange Walk's Thomas Godfrey, who is Belize's top 170-pound MMA fighter, competing against Mexican Ismael Canek Perez. Godfrey said he will be ready for the competition.
Well, so far, since my last fights, I haven't sustained any injuries, so I didn't have to stop training after my fight or take a break off. So I've been consistently training since my last fight, but I've been training for about 5 years and a half now, mixed martial arts. So I have a nice background and experience behind me, and I've always been in the gym at least 5 times per week. So I've been dedicated, and I expect to go out next week Saturday and put on a nice show. Like you said, I've competed, and I've been on the other side watching the event also. It's honestly, it's a mind-blowing event when you're there. You get, even if you're not competing in the cage, you get that butterfly, you get that adrenaline rush when you see, especially if you have some type of relationship or know the person that is fighting. And here in Belize, it's so small. Usually, you go to those events because you know someone that's fighting, right? So you're going to get that adrenaline rush too. You're going to get that nice rush that everyone that we get in the cage, but instead of being in the cage, you're just, you know, outside supporting us and feeding us that energy. So you're definitely going to have a nice event, nice time outside.
And with that, we have come to the end of our newscast. A repeat can be viewed on the station later tonight at 9 and again tomorrow at midday. Join us again tomorrow for another news broadcast. I am Drea Espinosa. Have a safe and enjoyable evening.